Hi there, my name is Chrissy Hodges, and I'm an OCD advocate, peer support, and I do consultations for OCD referrals and resources. So I'm doing a weekly video today on scrupulosity. Scrupulosity is where religion meets OCD, and it's a very difficult topic. And to be honest with you, I've been thinking about this for a couple days, and sometimes I'll write down notes about what to talk about, but this is a really personal type of OCD. It's a very scary type of OCD and one that I have had experience in. Luckily, when I got therapy, I was able to manage it. So today I'm going to structure it a little more than I usually do. You know how I am. I usually just ramble on. But today I'm going to talk about what is scrupulosity and how does it affect OCD, my own lived experience, and then I want to talk about religion and mental illness in general. Just a message from myself as someone who's worked with a lot of people. I see religion a lot of times interjected and gets in the way of treatment, but can also be a blessing. So first, let's talk about scrupulosity. This is when all of a sudden you question your faith, your beliefs, and they become intertwined with OCD, which, as we know, if you know anything about OCD, or maybe you don't, that's typically going to be a lot of doubt, a lot of anxiety, a lot of questioning. I need a lot of proof. I'm going to have compulsions that are going to try to help me feel better because I'm having this massive obsession. And when scrupulosity is involved, the obsessions are going to surround a higher power. Regardless of what your religion and your beliefs are, it's typically going to revolve around whether or not you're being ethically or morally wrong or sinful when it comes to your belief system. So some of the compulsions that can happen when you're experiencing scrupulosity can be excessive prayer rituals. That was mine really badly when I was really affected by it. If someone is needing to go to confession weekly or monthly, I'm not Catholic, so I'm not sure how that works. But confession might become part of someone's compulsions. Feeling like that they have done something wrong to offend God. Feeling like they're being punished for something that they've done to offend God or a higher power. And so then it might become you're scrutinizing of everything that you're doing. You're worried about whether your action or your word or something that you've done could have offended and now you're being punished, or that you're a bad person, or that you're not a good Christian, or whatever your religion might be. This is a type of OCD that can affect and span all religions, okay? I say it all the time. OCD does not discriminate. So there isn't some religion that's immune to this. This actually just becomes intertwined with your mental illness. Now, I do want to say this before I move on to my lived experience. I am not by any means saying that you have done anything wrong in your religion to have gotten this type of OCD. The problem here, and some of the things that make scrupulosity so difficult, is because it's so personal to people. You know, there are many people that look at their faith as this is all that there is, or this is how I'm defined, or this is all encompassing. And so when that comes into question with OCD, and all of a sudden you're thinking, I am not good enough, I need to do this, or why am I getting these thoughts, and what if God is disappointed in me, or whatever, it becomes all encompassing and very, very torturous. So when you have to start thinking about whether or not this is a mental illness, or whether or not this is for real, which, by the way, it does seem for real, because a lot of stuff with faith is just taking it on faith. That was very repetitive, but you know what I'm saying. It is, you have to go with be a good person and good things will happen, or you have to, pray for forgiveness or this or that. And so for you to even question that what is going on for you, even though it becomes tormenting and torturous 24/7. It all of a sudden maybe feels like you are going against the faith. If you decide, I think maybe I'm having an issue with this. That keeps people trapped. So I want to make the distinction of this. If you're suffering with scrupulosity, I would suggest that you try to separate the two, because you can still have faith and you can still have religion despite all of the stuff that's going on over here with this tormenting illness. It may change, but I think that most people would agree it would probably change for the better, which is more of an accepting and loving view of faith and religion versus this tormenting, I'm doing something wrong and getting punished all the time. So I'm going to move on to my lived experience with scrupulosity. Now, I want you to bear with me, because every time I tell the story, I feel like I sound nuts. And I mean, I think pretty much I was at the time, because I had a diagnosable mental illness that I was not being treated for. This is how it happened for me. I grew up in a very religious family. You may know it or you may not. My dad's a minister in the South. He's a great guy. And by the way, he's super supportive of not my illness, but super supportive of me and my recovery, and has always been. So when I was 8 years old, I had a life-changing event happen with OCD. I developed an obsession, and it changed my life within a split second. From then, I was engaged in rituals from every moment on. I had no idea what was going on. So this is where things got complicated. I didn't know how to make sense out of it. I thought to myself, what happened? What did I do wrong? Because all of a sudden I was having anxiety, which makes me feel awful. It's awful bodily feelings. And I thought, I'm having all these horrendous thoughts that are scary to me, that make me feel a lot of shame. And in my mind, which we all do as human beings, we use our worldview to make up stories to make sense out of what's going on in our life. And I made up a story at 8 years old, and it made sense to me. I must have done something wrong to deserve this punishment, these bad feelings, these bad thoughts. And if my family knew what was going on, they would be so ashamed of me. And so I believed that I had done something wrong and God was punishing me. Okay, y'all, you're probably thinking, girl, please. That's not how it works. Number one, girl, please. Number two, like you're that important. Well, it's almost like I had insight that I knew that how could God punish me in real time? I think, at that point I thought, okay, he has a lot of things to do. So that just fueled the obsession even more. I must have done something horribly wrong to have these horrible anxiety feelings and to have to perform these rituals. And I can never tell anybody about this. So I started doing these compulsions, religious compulsions that were scaling my brain of what I had done for the past year or however long. How did I sin? What did I do to insult God that all of a sudden now he is like throwing down the wrath on me? And if I only could repent enough, if I only could be a good enough person, maybe God will make these feelings go away. And that was the trap. That's when the cycle began for scrupulosity for me. Because I started to do these rituals, and the next day, I didn't have anxiety, and I thought, oh my goodness, okay, so this is the key. I've been a good person the last 24 hours, so God will reward me. And it became this weird delusional relationship that I had with the God that I knew was weird. And I also knew that if my parents knew about this, first of all, they would feel shame and embarrassment, but they also might be like, Chrissy, that doesn't really happen. So I thought it was some weird phenomenon, right? But either way, it made sense to me at the time. And I think that's what's so scary, is because I was so young and I didn't have anything to go off of, and I didn't have the ability to be able to critically think for myself to say, do we actually think that a higher power is going to, in real time, punish and reward you for something. I had gotten to the point after months and months of these rituals where I was asking forgiveness for anything and everything. My every move was scrutinized. Everything I said, I was so terrified of what I talked about or what other people said in my presence. I would have to ask forgiveness for them. And it was exhausting. And so what happened is I endured this for 12 years in silence. And then when my obsessions became worse, when I started to develop sexual intrusive thoughts, I thought, oh my God, what did I do so wrong that now God is up the ante on me? And I would go to church and I would think if these people knew how horrible of a person I am, if they knew that the God they're worshiping thinks I am such a piece of shit and that he has to punish me in this way. And I was so ashamed and embarrassed, and it terrified me. It was a convoluted relationship with religion. And it's not what I wanted, or it's not what I imagined or hoped that a spiritual relationship would be. And I was so envious of everybody else. I thought they get to feel these wonderful things and they get to believe what they believe, and they don't have to deal with the punishment that I have to deal with, because I must be so horrible. On the night that I attempted suicide, I was so delusional. I was so depressed. I had been experiencing depression for 3 months at this point, nonstop. The night that I attempted suicide, I made a pact with God. And I said to him, if you want me to die, you'll wake me up by 5 a.m. If you want me to live, I'll sleep until my alarm, and I will know that I'm worthy of your love and that, that I'm being a good religious person, etc. Well, of course I'm going to wake up. Like, I set myself up. But you get so entrenched in this relationship between OCD, which is the anxiety and all the compulsions and the constantly seeking the validation and reassurance, that you just need some sort of help that isn't there. The proof that's never there with any obsession. So I woke up. And at that point, I thought to myself, okay, if you don't have God, this is what I believed at the time. If you don't have God and religion, you have nobody. And God is obviously wanting you to die. And so I attempted suicide. I was very lucky. I survived. But in that moment that I was laying there in a creek bed, I was trying to die by hypothermia and a self-inflicted knife wound. When I was lying there, and this is in my book, if you've read my book. Oh, I'll show you in just a minute. When I was lying there, I remembered a sermon that I had heard months before, where a preacher stood in the pulpit and he said, anybody that commits suicide is going to hell. How dare you take a life, your own life, when your life is only God's and God's only to take. And I just laid there, almost in death, waiting for it. And I wished I could have a moment to speak with that minister and tell him how wrong he was. And what kind of God would make someone suffer the amount of suffering I had gone through at that time, and then punish someone to hell. That isn't the kind of God I would ever worship. And I made the decision to live. When I was diagnosed with OCD and diagnosed with sexual intrusive thoughts plus scrupulosity, I was angry, because then I was like, oh God, everything that I knew up to this point is a lie. Not because anyone taught me that, but because my illness became entrenched with religion. That was it. And that's what my brain did to religion, to distort it and to make me very, very ill. The good news is there's help and there's hope. And there's treatment that works for scrupulosity. It's very difficult. I mean, treatment is difficult anyway, because you have to reprogram how you think You have to reprogram the things that you believe and that you have committed to for years in order to survive. I committed to that story and it kept me alive. So I had to commit to letting go of what I believed for so long. Whether or not you choose to let go of religion at that point is up to you. You don't have to. You just let go of the part that infiltrates your ability to live and manage every single day. It's so hard to distinguish because you're afraid you're being defiant, number one. But number two, you also think, how am I going to find proof that I am offending God or not? Part of the therapy is learning to live with the uncertainty. And that's something that you'll learn to do when you get effective treatment for OCD, which is exposure response prevention. Now to finish, I want to talk to you just briefly about some thoughts that I have about religion and mental illness. I've worked now for several years with people who have major mental illness in their symptoms. And I cannot tell you how high of a percentage of people I talk to who will say, if I'm just a little bit better of a person, I promise that if I get out of this hospital, I will pray more. I will do this more. I will do that more. Let me give you a hard fact. You cannot pray your way out of a mental illness. You cannot believe enough to get out of mental illness. So if anybody tells you you need to pray harder or you need to work on your relationship with God, you need to run from them. They are wrong. They are not good for you. And it is not something that's going to help you. It's going to make you sicker. Religion is your preference. It's your belief system. If you want to use it in the way that you ask for help to be brought to you. Use it in the way to ask for guidance and comfort. Do not use it in a way to think that it's going to cure you. I don't know. Maybe you do, but would you pray over a broken femur and hope that it would just magically be okay? Mental illness is a brain illness. This is not something that you can outthink, that you can pray for to magically go away. There is no magical person in the sky that is going to make it stop. Do the work. Find the right people to help. And if you are religious, use your religion as a support. Use it as comfort and use it as a way to help advance you toward recovery. I'm very passionate about this topic, obviously. But I do want you to know you're not alone in any capacity. Recovery is possible for anyone. Thank you for listening to this video, and thank you for hearing about my lived experience. It is a personal one, and it is a very tough topic for me. If you are in need of referrals and resources for OCD, please contact me at ocd.chrissie@gmail.com, or you can go to chrissyhodges.com. If you're needing peer support, please email me or contact me. Anybody, and I hope to talk to you soon. Bye.